Good morning and welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto. Nice, you're already excited and looking a little bit more awake than some of the crew backstage. You guys ready for some StarCraft? So am I. So first we got the last quarterfinal. We're through the group stages. Today we got 4 sets. The last quarterfinal, 2 semifinals, and the grand final. First 3 are best of 5s. The last one an epic best of 7. It's going to be incredible, right? And you guys are gonna keep being that loud, right? Good, good. Especially the guy in the Ghostbusters shirt, man. MC? Maybe next time, dude. All right, well, before we get started with the game, I'll introduce you to the expert couch and its host, Paul.
Thank you very much, Jarrett. As ever, he makes us all wake up early in the morning, it has to be said, because he's right. A few of the crew looking a little bit sore this morning, the heads. But not here on the couch, you'll be pleased to know. We've got the non-drinking Todd and the very non-drinking Nathanius. How you doing?
I'm feeling incredibly sober and awesome today, Paul.
First quarterfinal we're going to kick off today. It's the last quarterfinal of the tournament. Some would argue that this is probably the lowest of the 4, but they're still great players. We've got Zest and we've got YoDa. Let's talk about YoDa first. He absolutely tore his way through the qualifiers to get here as a qualifier. 2-0 Snoot, 2-0 MMA, 2-0 Golden, 2-0 Hyun. It just in isolation, that's an amazing run.
Yeah, YoDa is one of the players. Like we kind of talked about this earlier in the tournament. I mentioned a few times. YoDa looked good, especially towards the release of Heart of the Swarm. During the Intel Extreme Masters, they had the championship, the first Heart of the Swarm tournament. But then we didn't really hear too much from him. I really liked seeing him play in the last couple weeks. Like you mentioned, he did a really good job in this qualifier. He did a really good job. Tore through one of the 4 very stacked qualifiers. Players all like this in the Battlegrounds Online. He made it to the top 4, where he was able to even take a series, I believe, off like CJ Intis here, who was also there. He defeated First, who was also competing here. So he's been a little bit more on fire this past month than any other time. If he was going to try to make the big comeback to get everybody talking about him again, this tournament is where he has to do it. Yeah,
I mean, when he won Intel Extreme Masters, it was a real shock to everyone. I mean, he just came out of absolutely nowhere. I'm going to ask a question which may rile you a little bit as a Terran, but bearing in mind I'm a Terran too. Is he a patch Terran?
I don't like that term.
I know, that's why I said I'm going to rile you with this question.
The thing is...
Why do you ask Nate and not me?
Because I know what your answer is.
I don't honestly...
He's uncomfortable already,
I don't think we've seen the full impact of it.
Okay.
Because Terran vs. Protoss was heading in this direction for a couple months now. The last patch had really nothing to do with it because Widowmines had already shut down all the non-Colossus openings. So SV pulls, we've been seeing a lot in the GSL, in WCS for probably since halfway through the 2nd season.
It's okay. No,
he's just been stepping it up.
Don't get too defensive. It was just it was a tongue-in-cheek question. Todd, Zest, what do we say about him? A fantastic year. He's had GSL champion, global GSL championship as well. Continues to do well. Looks, pretty solid. Whoever he plays doesn't seem to really have a definitive weak matchup. I mean, he says his PVT isn't his best, but even then, 63% win rate. There's not much wrong with him. What can we see in the chinks in the armor, if you like, for YoDa to maybe tap into?
One big question mark here for me is YoDa going to pull the boys? Is he going to go for it against somebody who goes Colossus almost all the time, who likes to open blink a lot? Zest is actually one of those guys when he first started having big results, who had his own style, brought a lot of new builds to the table. And back then I thought he was this wild player who could play almost any style and mix it up a lot. But now I'm realizing that he has mostly one main style he likes to stick to. And versus Terran, that's Blink Stalkers and Colossus into a 3rd base, into defense, and then counterattacks if he finds any room for it. So he's kind of predictable. And, that can be used against him, I feel. As much as he's good at his own style, if YoDa did his preparation, I'm sure he talked a lot with MC. MC is very good at finding solutions to players, so that's going to make this match very interesting for me.
Okay, we'll take a little break right now and head back to the stage for the player introductions.
Are you guys ready? All right. Your first player is from Korea. Currently lives and trains in Germany in a gaming house. Recently joined Team TSM. Please Put it together for YoDa. And his opponent, also from Korea, former GSL champion, 2 championships this year, and arguably the best Protoss on planet Earth, Zest. From KT Rolls.
Thank you, Jarrett. Just going to correct something here. Hold on a second. Yeah.
I don't know.
There was a little letter missing in there. It's okay, though. We've got it. It's fine. It's all good.
What does it mean, actually? Maybe if you knew what it meant, you would
Well,
remember.
I tried to look it
it's
up.
an old thing. So when this team first started, they were sponsored by Cooler Master alone. It was Cooler Master's team, so they were called Team Cooler Master. It's as simple as that.
I'm sure if you knew that.
But it's now just called TCM. It's not got
Okay.
the full name. There we go. A little bit of Freudian slip, but that's fine. I think TSM should probably start putting some StarCraft players in. I think it's about time.
I mean, I wouldn't argue. I
No.
wouldn't complain.
No, exactly. Let's get into the map vetoes very shortly. These two. What sort of impact is a map choice is going to make, do you think, for Zest in particular?
I think it's very important. There are not that many maps. Like, it's not like PvZ where like you kind of already know and everybody always vetoes the same map. Even though with the new map pool, it's not as, I guess, as concise as it was in the previous season or map pool. So I don't know. I think Zest gets a lot of practice on most maps. There's probably just one that he doesn't like, which is the one he's going to veto. And a lot of Koreans actually they have not been vetoing merry-go-round all that much. I think Zest almost every single time Fustian played it, and he has his own build and style that he uses on it. So maybe Catalina as a veto, or Nimbus. Nimbus, I think, very high up there right now for Protoss veto against Terran.
So YoDa's pulled off Deadwing.
And Catalina.
And Catalina by Zest.
I guess if his style is like so different than anybody else's, that it makes sense to play those maps like merry-go-round. And it's, look, immediately YoDa doesn't waste any time. He's like, hey, I want to start with 1-0.
Yeah, that's it's a good map. It's a good map for Terran versus Protoss, definitely. You mean you have to take into consideration you only get the one veto with the best of 5 format. So I'm thinking, I'm not surprised by the veto that we saw out of YoDa playing on Deadwing. When you're playing Terran versus Protoss, your goal is to kill the Protoss. If you're going to pull the boys, you'll do it when they're on 3 bases. And on Deadwing, that's still up a ramp.
Yeah, these two have a fairly patchy record so far in this Intel Extreme Masters. Zest is 5-3, YoDa's 4-2, so don't really read too much into either of those scores. But a move on to the semi-final, and it kind of becomes irrelevant at this point. There's 3 fantastic players sitting in that semi-final. I mean, it's just been an incredible tournament.
Yeah, I agree. We've had a lot of really cool results. I guess it goes without saying, yesterday's results were pretty crazy. The series between Flash and Snooze is definitely one of the highlights of the tournament by far. But the real question here is, I feel like YoDa is just the big underdog that's here. He's the guy that, when you look at all the players that signed up here, out of the top 4, if you said, yeah, Life is going to be here, Tasia and Flash, that's not really surprising. And if you put Zest in there, I don't think anybody else is really blown away by that. But if you put YoDa in the top 4, that's when people start to say, well, what wasn't Zest here? Wasn't CJ Antishero here, and Jaedong, all those other players? So YoDa has the chance, I think, to upset the most people here that like to be right when they make predictions.
I want to ask Todd, when we're in best of 3, almost anything can happen. I think we're fully aware of that right now. But best of 5, Zest must have the advantage in that format.
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think he's a lot more experienced in this situation as well. Like, we don't play too many best of 5 in tournaments, but I think that Zest is one of those guys that plays internal practice with his teammates, so he's more used of playing those best of 3, best of 5 situations than a YoDa who plays, I think, mostly ladder. And yeah, it's just gonna. I was already kind of thinking actually about which one of these players would have the better chance against Life. And if you think about it, like you just mentioned the results of YoDa, I think YoDa would have a better chance. So it's such a tricky match here.
Yeah.
For him to be able to reach the finals, he has to go through this very hard match now. And even though Life is very hard himself, he seems to be doing very well against Zerg. So
we spoke a little bit about MC potentially helping out YoDa. First is also in that camp as well, as a TCM fellow member, and he's also part of the same house. But there's also the same kind of top-heavy thing going on with Zest. He's got Flash in his corner, who's also a Terran. So I think they've both got a bit of help here, haven't they?
I don't think Zest would ask for help from Flash.
Against the Terran.
Even if Flash comes over, Zest is like, probably, nah, don't worry, bro, I got this.
Okay. Final predictions then from both of you for our last quarterfinal, Nathan.
I really like Zest in this match. Maybe YoDa pulls a fast one in one of those games, but like Todd said, the best of five format gives me the edge. I go 3-1 Zest.
Okay, so the Terran goes for the Protoss.
3-2 YoDa.
And the Protoss goes for the Terran. I love it. It's fantastic. We've got symmetry on the couch. Let's head over to the commentary team for the final quarterfinal of the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto.
Thanks very much, guys. A brand new day, a brand new set of games. The final day of the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto, as we have YoDa and Zest playing off against one another. One will advance onto the round of 4, and that's where things are going to get tricky. They're going to be playing against Life, but let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet.
Yeah, Life is looking so strong right now, but before they get to it, they got to get through each other.
That's true. And I think YoDa here might have a difficult time. Zest is a guy that plays a very, very high caliber in a very, very tough region and does well against the Terrans there as well. Whilst YoDa hasn't had to really play against too many top-level Protoss. The last time he really did was against CJ Hero. He's actually played him twice. He did beat him during one of the Red Bull qualifiers, but then previously, just before, lost to him. So that's been the real test for him so far in terms of this matchup.
Yeah, but we have seen YoDa show us some play that's perhaps unexpected, a level of refinement and quality, especially in his Terran versus Zerg games just the other day, that I think many people unexpected. This is kind of a YoDa returning to form, and a YoDa in form is a scary YoDa.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, watching him through WCS Europe, having been in our region now for a little bit of time, the last season for him wasn't that successful. He wasn't happy with that.
Yep.
Going into this season now, advancing onto the round of 16, beating his teammate first to actually advance onto the round of 16. Admittedly, also quite a high-level Korean as well as Hero. But, you know, Zest, for me, is on a whole other level. Can YoDa compete with the fury that is Zest when it comes to this matchup?
Yeah, and first map is Merry-Go-Round. We've seen a lot of different things on Merry-Go-Round. A lot of TvPs have been on this map so far. Notably, I think Flash played MC on here twice, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Tasia played against Zest as well in the group stage.
I think so.
That's a thing, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure
my memory's not failing me here.
But the cool thing about that is that we've actually seen Protoss trying to go to third bases fast and things like that. But anyway, guys, let's get into it. Game number 1 now of day number 4, as we have spawning down to the south as our red Terran. Representing TCM, it is YoDa. And up to the top right, our blue Protoss. Representing KT Rolster, one of the best in the world, it is Zest.
All right. And now, like Todd was saying, Zest does have kind of a typical style, a typical opening that he chooses to go for. But we did see him mix it up, especially against Bunny, actually, the other day. He didn't really go for his standard early blink pressure at all, really. And so I think perhaps Zest opened up the tournament with some of his more standard play, and now he's getting into perhaps the reserve builds, the special builds that he's kind of waiting and using as his opponents play against their expectations. They think that he's going to do one thing, and he's ready and prepared with something else.
Yeah, and he's shown, I mean, time and time again, has Zest, especially in qualifiers. I think he's one of the last 2 Intel Extreme Masters Korean qualifiers, or even Asian qualifiers as a whole, which often is a prelude for who actually comes along and wins the tournament in the Intel Extreme Masters. Hero's done it before during this, unfortunately not doing so well here, but Zest, scary. He beat Flash during that qualifier. Went toe-to-toe with Tasia. Some could have argued he was very, very close to that victory.
Yep.
Tasia's just Tasia.
Well, Tasia always shows a unique level of form whenever he attends a tournament. But here we do see the probe getting into YoDa's base. He's going to scout the early barracks, the early gas, and this is about as normal as it can get in this matchup right now. He's going to go for that early Reaper. Most likely take 1 off of gas very shortly. Meanwhile, Zest going for that early 1 gas Gateway Cybernetics core. So both players opting for a very normal opening. This Zealot is probably going to be canceled, but it's a safety move by the Protoss. In the event that the Terran decides to engineering block your natural, not having that Zealot means your expansion is going to be delayed by so much, because the Stalker and the Mothership Core just don't have the same damage output you need to actually get that engineering bay down and get that Nexus.
Yeah, that's true. YoDa here, luckily for him, as well as both players, actually getting that scout off first. SCV went down and unfortunately could not do any blocking at all, as the Nexus already got planted down before that even happened. And here comes the Reaper.
Yeah, the Reaper's going to move out. Important things for YoDa right now is with that SCV, he wants... Well, actually, he doesn't know where the second pylon is, and he doesn't know where the third pylon is. So those may be his objectives with this Reaper. He's actually looking around right now, checking for early Zealot. Maybe he didn't see that the Zealot was actually canceled. And so he's expecting it perhaps to be moving across the map, because you notice he's not really doing anything aggressive at all with this, even though at this point there is one Mothership Core down. A good Protoss player probably won't lose any probes, but more than that, you have opportunities to figure out exactly where you're going to be scouting around 6 minutes. That's usually when the Reaper comes back and checks for the tech.
Oh, going to sneak around on here. This is always a nice little tactic by the Terran, because the Nexus just doesn't have vision range up to that top position. But Zest's already really prepared for it. This is actually really good scouting here by Zest. Small thing, but good spot.
He's gonna go in, actually, and the Stalker's going to be in position. I don't think YoDa's really going to get any information at all from this. He'll see the Gateway and the Cybernetics Core, but second gas, there's really nothing to be said for it. And the problem for YoDa right now, if we look at his vision of Zest's base, is he doesn't know where the second pylon is, he doesn't know where the third pylon is. And that means whenever he decides to scan, if he decides to scan, he's basically got a 50% chance of finding it. You know, there's the pylon's not in the natural, and he looked around, maybe it's proxied, maybe it's not, but he can decide, like, do I scan the in between the main and the natural, do I scan the main, do I scan that corner? But meanwhile, he's actually, well, we'll see if he scans. He's got about 10 seconds until he's got another potential mule.
Yeah, he's got to be very careful about this. Actually, Zest is, every time I watch him actually play this matchup, it's very, very common for him to put his Twilight Council down in that exact location. And YoDa gets a good scan there, spotting that, sees the Chrono Boost going into it as well. He knows what's up.
And that's a really good move for YoDa. A little bit lucky, because of course there is that second pylon that YoDa did not know about. The Twilight Council could have been there, but now he's going to have most of the information he needs. One of the issues is he doesn't know how many gateways Zest has put down, so he doesn't know that it's just a quick 3-gate. He's still making probes. He's going to take the gases at his natural. There's a robotics in his natural. Ooh, a little bit of a move out. Does not catch those Stalkers. Zest is very much on top of what's going on here.
Yeah, that Marauder does cause a little bit of a problem for those Stalkers. Has to run away for now. And Robo behind this is going down with 3 extra Stalkers warping in, but more defensively than anything. And this pylon's just finished. He technically could have warped them in there, but I guess he is walking across now.
If he warped those in there, he's not quite in the position to deal with this potential push that's coming across the map. You can see YoDa actually went for very fast combat shields. So he's going to try and probably not just attack, but at least do what pressure, get what information he can. Because again, he doesn't know what the follow-up here is from Zest. He doesn't know that he's going into gas. If this was a 6-gate blink and he's moving across the map like this, and he pushes down the ramp, you know, that's a very easy way to lose the game right away.
This army for YoDa, I mean, being that far out here with this aggression coming along, he really doesn't have that much at home at all. He has to do some damage on the other side if this bunker actually falls. There's the repair, but the bunker does end up dying off. Zest here doing quite a bit of damage at the front, trying to focus down the Marauder, blinks out there. And on the other side, YoDa has to do something with this small force.
Yeah, and Zest kind of recognizes the potential threat of the counterattack. He knows there's not a lot of units here. Warps in 3 Stalkers at home. Photon Overcharge does go down, but there's no sentry to keep these units out of the main. The Mothership Core does go down, and now the Marines and Marauders are in Zest's base. They're going to be able to take out a lot of units here.
Yeah, good blink control overall there to save those Stalkers. Chrono boosting into the gateways as well, knowing he needs some reinforcements here to be able to deal with this. He is losing a few probes. That being said, also losing some Stalkers kind of pinned in here as well. A bit difficult for them to get out, but that was nice there by YoDa. Nice.
Yeah. And Zest really, instead of warping in 3 Stalkers, what he needed was 2 Stalkers and a sentry. If he force fields that ramp, he converts converges all of those units into his natural where the photon overcharges. Maybe he runs his probes a little bit down, does a bit of blink micro, but he could have mitigated those losses by a big amount. Right now, it wasn't a huge loss for him, but it is disruptive, and losing those stalkers is not really something you can't really afford to replace them, because you're very soon he's going to be putting all of his gas into making the Colossus transition. Warp Prism in the main right now.
Really, really nicely done here by Zest. He's really keeping things on YoDa's side of the map, to be honest with you. And taking the third behind this whilst all this is going on, YoDa doesn't really have room to try and go and punish that, and that'll buy time for the Colossus.
And now we do see him pushing into the natural, putting a little bit of pressure on that bunker. And Zest has such a good web of pylons. It's going to be so hard for YoDa to move out without the threat of a counterattack, whether it's the Warp Prism, the Blink Stalkers, or even the aggressively placed pylons both on the east and west side of the map.
Very, very difficult here so far for YoDa to really kind of get out and really do a whole lot. I mean, his third command center is going down, yes. Another scan reveals the Robo.
Did he see the Colossus?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think it popped out on the kind of the other side of that scan, but I'm not entirely sure. With that early Robo, though, he and the Blink Stalkers, he can probably figure this is not going to be Templar. Usually if someone was going Templar, they kind of skip the Robo. Not always, but that would often be the case, especially with this third Nexus, which he'll be finding out about very soon.
And YoDa can't really continue this pursuit a whole lot. The Blink Stalkers are going to be able to control this nicely, and even if he does push on far, there is that Colossus there, ready and waiting to do some damage. So
Wait, where's his mother? Oh, he didn't rebuild his mothership core. So he's not going to have energy for a photon overcharge. That's going to make it very hard for him to defend multiple locations. But I don't think Zest really cares that much about defending. Look, he's stopped probe production. Well, no, he hasn't. He's just making a lot of units. He's making a ton of units.
Yeah.
Okay, and YoDa is caught out of position in his map.
This is quite threatening. Very, very threatening. I think YoDa might have to actually lift up and try and find another route here, because if he's going to try and take this fight head on, it's going to be scary. But also, he may end up leaving a few units at the back to try and get on top of those Colossi, because right now he doesn't really have that many Vikings. It's going to be difficult for him to bring that down. He actually catches one of the Colossus. A good blink back though to try and defend that, to start things off. The Colossus is not going to fall. He didn't chase it, didn't pursue, and YoDa's army is getting melted. GG. Game number 1 goes to Zest. Pretty clinical in the end.
Yeah, Zest looked very strong there. The run-by did a bit of damage, but really did not kill as many probes as he needed to get that decisive advantage. The Zealots in the main with the Warp Prism, once again, giving Zest that little bit of lead. And then I think the YoDa really didn't expect Zest to make that many units that early. I don't think there was a forge for Zest.
That's actually a really good point.
Right?
Actually,
there was no forge. It was basically just Blink Stalker, third Nexus. He uses the third Nexus to get a little bit of extra mineral income, and also to kind of bait his opponent.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, hey, look, I have a third. Like, come attack me.
No, you make a great point there, actually, QXC, because if you look at the army value, the graph of it and how it fires up at the very end, because Zest had that third up. He wasn't committing gas to upgrades. He wasn't committing even just a little bit of minerals to that forge as well.
Right.
You know, he was cutting corners in the end for an eventual big power play, and completely smashed it.
Yep. And he didn't really cut probes, but he didn't really build probes, right? So it's kind of weird.
Okay.
Like, the Nexus finishes and he transfers 7 probes to it, and then he uses... What it was is like the probes filled the cracks of his production. So he was chrono boosting his gateways. He was making as many units as he can. And then when he had extra money, he was making probes.
Yeah, I get you.
And often what we'll see is the player will prioritize probes over the production. Even if the gateways are ready, they'll be like, well, I want to chrono boost my Nexuses, and I want to get as many probes out as possible. And Zest kind of did the opposite. And that's part of that, combined with the lack of a forge, gave him that huge push that took YoDa completely off guard and just destroyed him.
Yeah, and normally going onto a map like Merry-Go-Round, I would favor the Terran because of how the third base works, and if they go level pegging in, then they can try and punish that location. But, I mean, Zest didn't... It was as if he just didn't even care. He was, again, keeping all the fights on his opponent's side of the map. He was expanding towards his opponent, so technically, even if that hadn't have worked out, yes, he would have been, you know, a bit in a bad spot when it comes to upgrades, but at least he'd have had a Nexus up, but... It was a bit of a crazy game. Zest does well.
Yeah, and it was kind of a strange opening from YoDa. So it was 2 racks eBay, right? But then he was out on the map and he was trying to make some pressure happen. And Chirax eBay is one of the builds that gives you some of the fewest number of units in the game. And so it's perhaps part of the reason that those early exchanges didn't really go well for YoDa is he just his strategy wasn't really consistent with his infrastructure. You know, if you're going to go for a really early engineering bay and you're going to stay on 2 barracks and only build 1 Marauder early on, your play is kind of towards that 1-1 or even that 2-1 timing. And then he was trying to make things happen earlier than that, and that left him exposed. You just didn't have enough supply to both do that counter pressure against Zest, as well as defend the potential counter pressure against him.
Yeah.
You know, the bunker went down. He was losing some SCVs at home. The War Prism was hard to defend because he just didn't have that much supply.
And even the one small thing that YoDa got given, which was the stim up into the main with no force field there, unfortunately he couldn't really capitalize from the little bit of damage he did, because he took a damage himself as well. I mean, the Zealots must have got at least a few kills or denied some income from actually happening in the main there for YoDa as well. So King Sage on Station will be our next map. Zest looking good so far. And I think this is another map where, technically, I wouldn't even mind him bringing out the same style. I think it would work okay.
Yeah, Sejong Station is a really good style, and a really good map for that early gateway pressure, early blink pressure, rather.
All right, well, let's get into it. Game number 2 now, as we have, spawning up to the top left-hand corner, it's our Red Terran representing TCM. It is YoDa. And down to the bottom right-hand corner, we have our blue Zerg, currently 1 game up, representing KT Rolster, it's Zest. I think the crowd has more energy than I do this morning. I don't know how you guys do it, but there you go.
All right, early depot, well, not early, normal depot, normal pylon. And what I was saying about this map's really strong for, so last game, it felt like Zest, the blink was really just a control mechanism. It wasn't really supposed to do damage. It was just that because YoDa took so many units out of his base, that he was able to get some damage done. On this map, there's so much surface area into the main, and so there's a lot of opportunities for the blink to happen. Not only do you have the side, so if we look at, or if we think about it, just south of YoDa's main, there's that big cliff there. Yeah, that one. So that's a big opportunity for blink. Yeah. And then there's also the destructible rocks in YoDa's natural. That's another opportunity for an entry point for those blink stalkers. And then at YoDa's natural, of course, he can just walk up the ramp. And then there's also a cliff to the east of YoDa's main. And these open up a lot of opportunities for blink pressure on this map. There's that whole area that potentially you have to defend or at least worry about a bunker here.
Yeah, as long as you've got high ground vision, which obviously comes in the form of like a mothership core, etc. Very, very difficult for YoDa to deal with if Zest wants to fully utilize that, fully go guns-ho with that kind of tactic.
Yep.
As for now, YoDa sending out his first SCV to have a look around, maybe even get a Nexus block whilst the Reaper is going to rendezvous along with that. And likewise, similar story for Zest. He's getting that Zealot, may end up cancelling it if he sees no threat, but you never know with this kind of SCV play.
Yeah, the SCV can make a big deal. A lot of players are not favoring that engineering bay block anymore. And the reason for that is because if you optimize your build all the way, you can get your command center before the second supply depot.
Yeah.
Anything you do besides just build 1 Reaper and build a reactor and build that command center means that you have to get the second depot first. And very few players right now are willing to do that. They want every little bit of economic advantage they can get. And so the SCV is generally not the threat, but every Protoss player is going to make that Zealot and then cancel it, because if your opponent does put that eBay down, it's such a pain if you don't have that early Zealot.
That SCV is heading on in a very interesting direction.
This is going to be a proxy factory.
Yeah, it looks like it. And Reaper did get an opportunity to see 3 pylons, which is a nice start for the Reaper in that main.
So basically, YoDa can act with confidence that there's no really early proxy Stargate, early proxy Twilight Council, anything like that. And he also is going to have a really good idea of where to look with his Reaper in the next minute or two. Twilight Council does go down for Zest in the back of his main. And so that should be it's hard to imagine how YoDa wouldn't be able to scout that. Whether it's because he can basically scan and hit the main pylon and the pylon just above it with the same.
Yeah.
And the Reaper should be able to hit that pylon just up the ramp to the natural.
Yeah, and again, Zest here, just with this play, is quite predictable, I would say, actually. I mean, normally...
Okay.
Nice denial. Nice denial.
And that's going to force a scan out from YoDa in probably about... They'll probably use the second scan, so in about 20 seconds or so.
So now we have the starport on the way. It's going to probably try and ferry these Widow Mines in. There's actually not going to be any detection because he has gone Twilight Council, lack of a robo facility right now. So he would need to add that in pretty soon if he's going to deny the Widow Mines from doing and being very, very annoying in that mineral line.
Yeah, and Zest is actually moving out with the Mothership Core and the Stalkers. That's a little unusual because it's not like he scans, sees the Twilight Council, sees the 3 gateways, so it looks the same as the previous game. The Mothership Core is going to get in, and the Stalkers are pushing at the front. I'm not really sure what... I think what it is he was trying to fake him out. The Stalkers, the Mothership Core, that's what you would bring if you were going to actually be doing, that early blink pressure with 3 to 6 gateways. And as soon as he reveals that to YoDa, he's just going to go home, hoping to bait out some additional bunkers, or at least get YoDa to play a bit more defensively.
Well, here comes the Widow Mines in the medevac, and fortunately for Zest, because he's a pretty good player, and he does actually account for such things.
Yep.
He's actually already prepared for it, and he's going to push it away. No detection needed just yet at all, because he's so well prepared. So that's a really good start for Zest.
Yeah, and now YoDa really has to make some damage done here. His tech is very delayed. His worker count is kind of on that threshold of between winning and losing, up just down 11 workers here, now 10. He's going to deny a bit of mining time here, but Zest definitely with the advantage right now.
Yeah. One observer end up killing all this off. The probe ends up dying, but at the end, I mean, 2 probes, you're expecting more here for YoDa.
Yeah, for sure. Second medevac is out. I'm not quite sure what the plan is there. If he could go back in, actually, if those Stalkers move out, and YoDa, because YoDa still has 1 Widow Mine there that he's probably going to keep close. He's going to try and use that whenever his opponent is distracted. And Zest is doing that follow-up pressure. He gets the relatively early blink. YoDa never scouted the robo.
I've got to ask though, with how things have worked out here with the starport being proxied, how much does this delay him? He's going to put some pressure on with these Stalkers. This isn't an attempt at a killing move, but he has quite a lot of Stalkers, so he can do some damage here, getting quite a few Marines, just blinking back where he can, and even defending at home. That medevac does end up dying. How much does the Widow Mine do? Probably not a whole lot. Oh, they're a bit stuck there. Oh, good fire for YoDa with those units stuck, but everything's dying at the front.
Yeah, and this is a direct result of the build that he did, and he just didn't have a lot of units. The SCV repair on the bunker was a little too late, and you can see how far behind is YoDa. Well, Stim has about 80 seconds until it finishes, and we're 10 minutes into the game.
But I've also got to ask here, QXE, I wanted to come back to the point I wanted to make before that attack happened. With the way he proxied those buildings and his starport being so far out, RoboBay's just finished up. He could have Colossus coming out very, very soon. How much does this slow down the starport production to the point where he can deal with the eventual follow-up?
Yeah, so he's definitely going to be a little bit hampered in terms of his Viking production. The thing for YoDa, though, is he made 2 medevacs, and they both... I think they're both alive. Wait, did
one died.
One died. Okay,
yes.
So he's only got 1 medevac, but War Prism in the main. Once again, the Zealots getting 1 SCV kill, 2 SCVs go down, and he's going to pick that up and go home. This isn't going to be too hard for YoDa to defend now, though, because the Stalkers at the front, the complement to this pressure, are not present.
Yeah, going to have to go back. They did get themselves a few more kills in the previous push than they did in game number 1. But at the same time now, Zest is just gearing up for more gateways. He's going to have Colossus behind the 3rd base, and we're seeing him at a roughly similar probe count to how he was set up last game. So YoDa may just face a very, very similar to push to last game, and it's going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, and well, the one difference here is Zest is putting down a forge, and that's in place of his 7th gateway, which we saw him get last game. Right now, he's sitting on a very small army, though. It's really just, let's see, 8 Stalkers, a Colossus, and then there's kind of 3 Zealots going on vacation with the War Prism.
That's fine for them. They can do what they want. You actually brought up a great point in the previous game, which was his network of pylons that are just keeping an eye on things.
Yep.
He's now set that up. Even on the left-hand side, he has a lot of good vision as well for any kind of drop play that would come along. Scan trying to reveal an observer.
Kill that.
Oh. It's not very happy for him.
Yeah.
And he finds the third base as well, so he can even slow that down. He can try and do some damage in the mineral line if he picks up.
Very annoying for YoDa. He's going to have to cancel it. Probably start the third base somewhere nearby. He may try and do some pressure, but his army at Zest base is quickly becoming obsolete. And actually, we're going to have a big engagement here. YoDa is caught completely out of position. Force fields go down, and the Colossus are doing so much damage, he's forced to pick up and just head home.
Yeah, that blink forward. Thankfully, Zest didn't have too many Stalkers, so he wasn't able to bring down any of those medevacs on the retreat out. So YoDa doing okay getting out of there, but now he knows the threat that's imminent. He's trying to scramble and make as many units as possible because that army is just moving across the map. There's another Colossus that just popped out as well here. So if he waits for a third Colossus to come along with this against 0 Vikings and just Bio, I'm not sure how YoDa's going to be able to hold.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. The one thing YoDa has going for him right now is he's got +1 weapons. Zest, Zest isn't going to attack. He's going to keep doing this pressure and he knows he's got a huge advantage right now. If we look just at the overall worker count, the tech that's coming out, yeah, Templar Archives, 67 workers to 46. Zest's third is fully saturated. The pressure here is more just to maintain control of the game, not allow YoDa to freely move out, clear out those pylons, set up those potential counterattacks, but the attack from Zest is not really going to come until Storm.
Yeah. In the end, he's just playing a very, very patient style. I mean, I truly believe that there was a window there, but he decided just not to really risk it with how you're describing the game flow here. Yep. He's adding on Immortals as well. He's really adding a lot of backbone to this army.
Big drop, but Zest looks totally ready. Let's see, is he going to... He's completely prepared for this. YoDa, you got to turn around. You can't do this.
Okay, feedback's shutting a lot of that down. Stalkers are here to be able to help out as well. He even pushed it away from the natural and is dropping on his opponent's natural. So a lot of action going on everywhere. Zest decides to evacuate from there, but he's held on at home nicely.
And there was a War Prism in the natural, but he actually decided to cease its summoning capabilities because of the 2 Vikings attacking it. There was a lot of action that happened just in that very brief moment. But now, Zest with a 30 supply lead, and, you know, 20 of that supply is in workers. But that just means that Zest is going to hit his max out probably before YoDa.
Oh, yeah.
And if the Protoss is maxing out before the Terran, you know that the Terran is in a lot of troubles. YoDa is going to have to play meticulously. Yeah, he wants to come back in this game.
And also YoDa's in a bit of a bad spot because of the way in which he has to like really kind of distribute his tech very evenly. He saw the progression of the Templar Archives, how that's wearing away. He has very few Vikings, like 5 Vikings to go up against these Colossus numbers and trying to scramble towards the Ghost Academy as well. Having to deal with the High Templars, this is going to be very difficult to hold here for YoDa.
YoDa's kind of been behind on tech the entire game, and now Zest is going up to a total of a lot of gateways. 10, 12 gateways now. He's going to max out in just a moment here, and you can see these aggressively placed pylons. This is the timing that Zest has been gearing everything up for. Storm does go down, and it looks like Zest is moving in right now.
Oh, good. Storms also gets a good blink on top of those Vikings. The Vikings haven't even done anything to the Colossus as this engagement begins, and it's going to be very difficult here for YoDa to continue on. GG. Game number 2 goes to Zest, as he shows us a masterclass in Protoss versus Terran.
Yeah, and Zest is just one step ahead of YoDa every step of this game.
Yeah.
He's either denying YoDa's scouting, he's pushing YoDa back and leaving him kind of confused or at least unaware of his real intentions. Every time he pushes, he's not really pushing until he's truly ready. And there were like 5 times that Zest moved out on the map where as from YoDa's perspective, it's like, okay, this is the attack.
This is the time, yeah.
This is it. And it never was. It was just a way for Zest to continuously maintain control of the map, maintain tempo in the game. That allows him to keep those pylons up. It allows him to keep that War Prism threatening with those counterattacks, limiting YoDa's ability to maneuver. You know, YoDa only really had 1 attack that entire game.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It really makes for a difficult style to play against when Zest is, again, always in your face. It's almost as a complete role reversal, because when I see this matchup, I'm thinking to myself, well, you know, it's the Terran that needs to be threatening early. It's the Terran that needs to be trying to do damage. But Zest is always, again, across the other side of his opponent's map. Just not even... Just sitting there, just saying, hey, look at my units, look at my units. So, anyway, Overgrowth is going to be our third map. Zest is looking for the clean sweep, and right now I think he's on form to do the clean sweep.
Yeah, YoDa looks lost in these games. He'll need to do something, I wouldn't say drastically different, but he's got to do something that Zest isn't ready for. He's got to establish his control of this game early on, because the longer he's been sitting back, the more Zest is able to just establish a stranglehold on the map. There's so many pylons, so many aggressively placed ways for Zest to make those counterattacks and to keep YoDa basically in his base, doing no aggression of his own until Zest is ready to kill him.
We're getting loaded up now. Game number 3. This man on screen right here has a lot of work to put in. He needs 3 games in a row to advance. Let's see if he can do it, as he is spawning up to the top right-hand corner. He needs your cheers. He's our blue Terran. Give it up for YoDa. Everyone likes a good Terran. And down to the bottom left-hand corner, we have our red Protoss. Representing KT Rolster, it is Zest.
Here we go. What do you think? Do you think Zest is just going to keep doing the same way?
I mean, he could.
I'm feeling that he might actually commit to the blink pressure this time.
That's a good assessment of things, because you know, he sells this story 2 games in a row, and then all of a sudden he's like, more stalkers than you banked on.
Yeah. So far it's been like 1 gateway, 1 twilight. He adds those 2 extra gateways, but he's not really making much out of them. Continues the probe production, gets the gases as natural, very early robo. But if he suddenly takes that and turns it on his head, and instead of going 3 gateways and not making units, he goes 5 or 6 gateways and makes a ton of units, that may play against the expectations of YoDa in such a way that the game could end right there.
Yeah, and to add validity to what you're saying, let's think about how much damage those little stalker pokes at the front have actually done in the past games. The one in the last game actually went toe-to-toe with the majority of the bio for a long time there.
Yeah.
And that was only off 3 gateways. So God knows what could actually happen if he did fully commit. YoDa would have a really, really difficult time.
Yep. And a big part of YoDa's game plan here has got to be his scouting. He needs to be very on top of what Zest is doing, and not allowing himself to basically, he's been kind of led by what Zest is revealing to him. You know, Zest shows, he's like, all right, here are 2 stalkers and a mothership core. What do you make of that, YoDa? And then he moves across the map with 10 stalkers, and he's like, am I all inning you? Is this just pressure? What do you think? And it's really, YoDa needs to get around that force of Zest and figure out, you know, what does his infrastructure actually support? Because as soon as you see gases at the natural in a robotics facility, you know there's not going to be a huge stalker pressure. You have to be a little bit careful, but nothing too much. Oh, little duel here. Is Zest? Oh, no. No,
Where's the second
he's there.
probe?
Oh, there's the second probe.
There he is.
Hello, probe.
Run away!
Yep. Nexus goes down. And YoDa is actually completely unaware of what Zest is doing. So the Reaper has got a significant amount of ground that he needs to cover here. Important things, again, are always second gas timing. Is there a mothership core? Is he building a stalker? Where are the pylons? He sees 1 pylon. Now he sees the second and the third pylon. Sees the gas is starting in Zest base, and there's nothing building out of the gateway. So there's really no threat right now.
Yeah, that pylon to the bottom right of Zest's base always kind of strikes me as his robo pylon during all of this. It's not. He normally ends up putting the robo down on like the low ground and then being able to reinforce from there. It's just a good central location. It's also well defended when you actually have potential drop play coming along, but also getting those units to the very front to actually defend.
Yeah, and now we do see YoDa. He's opting for the build that he did in the first game, and Zest is actually going for a complete role swap here. He's going for that early robotics facility instead of that early Twilight Council, saving a little bit of chrono boost. I think he's going to go Immortals.
Yeah. and actually go bust, or
Yeah,
actually...
the build that he did against Tasia on Foxtrot just a couple days ago.
that eventually...
Oh, wait, no, he
was-
just used all his chrono boost. Maybe not.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just kidding. He might go it.
Just
I was
fooled you.
thinking, like the robotics facility is going to finish. He's going to be able to do some huge chrono boosting on it. Chrono boost out his warp gate a little bit, but no, that's absolutely not what's happening here. He's going for double gases very early at his natural, and we'll probably see him chrono boost out a observer in just a moment.
Trying to block with Sentry.
Yep, there's the Reaper. Gets into the base and sees the Robo. Does not see any additional tech, but a Robo at that timing plus that early Sentry. There's basically no other tech that could exist.
Yeah, so that gives YoDa, for now, a little bit of sense of security. And Ashley is pushing out into the middle of the map with a few units.
Yep.
Because he doesn't really have anything to rival him. What, maybe a Stalker or two? That's about it that's ever going to deal with it.
Yeah, he's actually going for the same combat shield timing here. And in terms of the builds matching up, this is probably best case scenario for YoDa out of all the games that have happened. You know, you kind of would think that that proxy starport would be effective against what Zest was doing, but it was such a defensive blink opening that it really didn't get much done. The first game, this combat shield timing against that 3-gate blink was not... Oh, did Zest see that? I think the observer just missed these units.
A little move out.
I don't think Zest has any idea this is coming. His units are placed defensively. So if we look at Zest's main right now, the Stalker and Sentry are sitting next to the Nexus. Zest has no idea this is coming.
Yeah, they're pretty far out. They are pretty far out. This observer will give him a little heads up once they actually come around the corner, but he has to be very, very careful because he doesn't... His Robo Bay, yes, just finished up, but he has no access to a Colossus just yet, which would be the bare brunt of this defense.
Here we go, and this is going to be the key moment. Zest sees that there's not a lot of units in YoDa's base, so I think he expected this was coming, but there's no units in the natural, really. Pulls the probes away. Going to try and get that Sentry... Nope, gonna leave.
Well, thankfully the Sentry had energy for not only a Guardian Shield, but also a Force Field. So if he needed it, that would have been totally fine.
Yep.
But overall, that was a good defense, a good pushback there by Zest.
Yeah, both players not losing too much, but definitely YoDa was on the weaker end of the spectrum, losing a couple more Marines than his opponent. Right now, you can see Zest. The intentions are clear by the way he's placed his units and what he's made. 4 observers on the map already. One of them aggressively placed to spot YoDa's move out, and the other 3 aggressively placed to spot Metavacs. And that means that Zest is going to be gearing up for a bit of a longer game right now. He's got 1 Colossus right now, Blink and Armor are coming, and a big scan from YoDa is going to reveal not nearly enough information.
Just a few gateways, and that's really it at the moment. Sees extra 2 gateways going down, though, underneath that. So, I mean, with how the builds line up here for YoDa, he went for 3 barracks and now has only just got his starport up and running, right? There's 2 Colossus out with Thermal Lance, and Blink's about to finish. Do you think he could... I mean, you're saying he's gearing up for, like, a longer game, but is there a window for Zest?
Yeah, maybe not. So usually when I think of Protoss 2 base timing, I would expect him to cut the observers a little bit. The observers are pretty gas intensive, and they take up a lot of time at the robotics facility. The robotics facility is really where the power of the push is going to come from. And so it seemed likely that maybe he'd be playing a little more defensively, but with these early 6 gateways and constant chrono boost on the robotics facility, he may be going for a +1 armor timing.
No, he's going to try and clear out that 3rd location.
No, he's getting a Nexus.
But the thing is he could get the 3rd Nexus and still push. How much army does he have on the ground? Oh, only 6 Stalkers, so not that much like to complement the Colossi.
The pushing at this point would be a little bit too risky. The problem is if there's, let's say you move out, you get to your watchtower and 2 Metavacs fly into your base, and you've just committed 400 minerals to a Nexus, then it's going to be pretty hard to defend that. You'd be forced to come back and take a lot of damage. And again, these observers scream macro game.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right about that. I shouldn't have doubted you, QXE. I shouldn't have doubted you. He's adding on the Immortals now as well to further add on a little bit of force to this army.
Oh, Zest has no idea. Or wait, does he? Why did he choose to move his Stalkers back? He must know that something's coming. Anyway, YoDa reveals his army here and scans. I don't think he can really take this force at the moment. He's got +2 weapons on the way, and that should be YoDa's opportunity to make an attack, is when +2 weapons finishes. Because he got such an early eBay, it delays the additional barracks. It delays really everything except for the upgrades, which means doing early attacks is generally not favorable because you just haven't made as many units as you would have otherwise.
And, you know, with the Templar Archives going down now, with all the Vikings on the way, it's, I mean, as much as YoDa had his third base down nice and rapidly, it kind of feels like he's just a little bit of a step behind all the time in the tech again, because going up against Storm that's going to be Chrono boosted out soon, I mean, what does YoDa do with this? He's adding on to the Starport.
So here's... If YoDa is going for a +2 timing, +2 is going to be done in 50 seconds. Storm is going to take much more than that. It's even with Chrono Boost, it'll take probably closer to a minute. And Zest right now only has 2 High Templar. I think what he's doing right now is he's scanning, trying to spot some kind of transition. Because as soon as he sees that there's High Templar, he can decide, like, okay, let's go before Storm finishes. There's a big timing here because Templar Archives is 200 gas, Storm is 200 gas, making High Templar is, you know, several hundred gas depending on how much you make, and all of that really cuts into Zest's army supply. If he doesn't recognize the Templar transition in time, which it looks like at this point he hasn't, Storm is about to finish.
Oh, this is the saddest little observer. He saw everything. He's an observer. Why didn't he move? Anyway.
Then, so this timing is now kind of moving across the map. +2 is finished, but he didn't hit a timing where he had an upgrade advantage. He'll at least be even. Zest with no attack upgrades right now, but Storm is going to make a big difference in this coming fight.
And defender's advantage a little bit here for Zest, but at the same time, Vikings getting into an alright spot across that little bit of a high ground there. The blink forward didn't really catch too many of them. Good Storm hits those Vikings to start working away at them. He needs to bring down the Colossus. Another good Storm, though, hits as this Bio has to get out of there. Zest is going to take this fight, push this army back, and YoDa's got to be careful.
Yep. He missed his opportunity there. There was a big window where there was no additional Colossus being made. All of the gas and a lot of the minerals were going into that additional tech with the Templar Archives. And to make the attack shortly after Storm finishes, you know, there was really no way YoDa was going to make that work. And now Zest senses that he can end this series and move on to the next round right here. The aggressive pylons are going down, and he's occupying a very important part of the map right now. It's going to be so hard for YoDa really to do anything at all.
He has 0 Vikings to his name right now to actually deal with this army. Just that Bio, a few ghosts are about to pop as well. EMPs are going to have to blanket the entire army to even try and stop this from crushing through the waves here. YoDa has to take a miracle fight. Time Warp already goes down from the left-hand side. Great flank to deny a lot for this even moving. There's the Storms as well. Zest takes a brilliant engagement. GG, 3-0, clean sweep. Zest shows that he is not only round of 4 quality, but very, very strong when it comes to the engagements.
Yeah, and YoDa just looked lost in all those games. If I think about the way he played TvZ, it was so methodical. It felt almost perfect. And the way he played TvP, he was always on his back foot, always one step behind his opponent. And then I think the main opportunity he had to win that game was to attack as soon as +2 finished with as many Vikings as he could have. He missed it. He didn't see the Templar switch, which is, you know, it's not an easy thing to see, but it's a thing you need to see.
Yeah.
And without that information, he commits to this attack that just went the way you would expect it to.
We started this tournament with a absolute bucket load of strong players, and now we're down to the final 4. Life, Zest, Tasia, and of course, Flash.
Thank you very much. Difficult to know what to say. Let's talk to some experts about it.
Correct.
Fair.
That's not necessarily wrong. A bit harsh, Todd.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, you had a really interesting prediction. You've been saying a lot of cool things about this matchup all weekend. How did you feel watching that one?
Let's talk about the predictions.
Take it away, Nate.
Okay, dominant performance from Zest. We thought that might be the case. We did have YoDa pegged as the massive underdog in that game, and it didn't really. There was nothing really we could grab onto. I mean, I don't know what, you know. I have no idea what Apollo's going to talk about when he analyses that, but what can you say about YoDa? I mean, it's a fantastic result for him. Top 8 is a really, really good result, but just very disappointing way to go down.
YoDa, I think in this run has experienced what many non-Korean players feel when they make a good run up a bracket, and then they just play someone who does not make any mistakes, and it's just you hit a wall. You run straight into a brick wall and you get smashed, and that's what happened to YoDa. He had a phenomenal run in the tournament. He's been playing really well, but Zest is just too good, and there's a reason why he's in the top 4.
Okay, so you went with Zest. You were the bright guy. Todd lacks Protoss passion. There's a hashtag in there somewhere. And went with the Terran. Why? What made you think YoDa was going to win this game?
Because I'm so sick of people saying the power of Protoss. Why do you think?
It's a great argument.
It is a good argument.
In terms of build orders, though, I think QXC covered everything pretty well, but I feel like the best traits to Zest's performance and his skill and all that is his consistency and how well he executes his build. But his biggest weakness is his predictability, which YoDa didn't exploit at all.
Okay. We've got, obviously, YoDa in the tournament, and there's a lot of Star Wars themed stuff going on here at the Fan Expo, not least of which at the Analysis weather station.
Hello, everybody. Going to be looking at some of that previous game to see what happened to YoDa. So if we jump into this, it was kind of a simple game, kind of a one-sided series, and we're going to look more specifically of how he died, unfortunately, because it was quite a one-sided one. So we see this attack coming in, and from this attack, it was instant death. He moves in, and as many of us Terrans sometimes have this feeling, a storm lands, which ends the game pretty much. We have a wonderful storm here by Zest, and from this point, a completely easy victory for him in this fight. And then he decides, okay, time to go kill YoDa off and take this 3-0. And we can fast forward it through, and it was a very simple 1, 2, 3, over to the other side of the map. And here comes a couple more painful ones, as you can see. Not so good there for YoDa. One-sided series, but Zest versus Life for the next one, and that's going to be interesting to follow. All right, thank you very much for my little cameo, and Red Eye, back to you.
Apollo backer. I have no idea. Some sort of weird thing going on there. Thank you, Apollo. We have Zest back on the winner's couch with us, and James is back as well. Congratulations, Zest. A terrific victory. Explain in your words, on a scale of 1 to 10, how easy was that game?
일단 주성욱 선수 이제 준결승으로 올라가신 거 축하드리고요.
네.
그리고 정말 솔직하게 어려웠던 정도를 얘기를 해주세요. 1부터 10까지.
뭐 방금 8강
방금 경기.
치르면서 방금 8강 치르면서 계속 주도권이 저한테 있어가지고 솔직히 어려움은 못 느꼈어요. 하나도. 그걸 숫자로 표현해 달라고요?
뭐 한 마이너스 10 정도.
아니요.
What's the scale? Is it 1 being super easy or 10 being super easy?
Well, 10 being easy, obviously. 10
Okay.
out of 10 is an easy game.
So I'm just gonna say what he just kind of said. Entire three matches on that last round of 8. I had the advantage to do whatever the hell I wanted because of how YoDa reacted and how he opened up. So 20.
Wow. Wow. I like Zest a lot, by the way. Have I mentioned that before? Going through to the semi-finals, you now have another tough game. They're all tough games from here on in. And your teammate, Flash, is on the other side of the bracket. I guess it's probably a stupid question, and tell me if it is, but you obviously want to play Flash in the final now in Intel Extreme Masters.
제가 뭐 짧게 당연히 경기들이 다 어렵겠지만 결승전에 올라가게 된다면 이승현 선수를 꺾고 그리고 결승에 올라간다면 이영호 선수를 상대하는 게 좀 더 편하시지 않겠느냐.
아니요, 전혀 그런 건 없고 지금 4강 반대편 투테란이 워낙 강력하기 때문에 솔직히 제 스스로는 영호가 더 잘한다고 생각해요. 그래가지고 근데 윤영서 선수한테는 좀 많이 져가지고 누가 오든 힘든 승부가 될 것 같긴 한데 일단 바로 앞에 4강 이승현 선수부터 이기는 것만 생각하고 있어요.
아 그러면 같은 팀이 반대편에서 결승으로 올라오나 안 올라오나 상관이 없다고?
아니 그건
신경 안 쓰겠다고?
아니, 그 말이 아니라 누가 올라오든 저한테는 힘든 승부가 될 것 같아.
Right now, I'm trying to think about my semifinals against Life. Not trying to think about who'd come up. I personally think Flash is a better player than Teja, but I am not too sure because they're both very equivalently great Terran players. So I asked, so you're pretty much saying you don't care if your teammate makes it to the finals. He's like, oh, wait, that's not what I meant to say.
Okay, so he does care, we think. Interesting. Okay, so in terms of the players to the left, who's the most dangerous?
자, 이제 남아있는 선수들 중에 가장 신경이 쓰이는 선수가 있다면은
그냥 지금 남아있는 선수들이 워낙 누구 한 명 빼놓을 거 없이 다 쟁쟁해가지고 지금 3명 모두가 신경 쓰이고 뭐 그 중에서도 제가 꼭 우승할 수 있도록 할 거예요.
I think everyone is a great player. There's no easy opponents at this from now on, and it's gonna be tough. I'm just saying how he kind of said it.
The only reason I asked that is I wondered whether he would say himself.
I was hoping he'd say that. So I was giving him the messages. It just didn't going across.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Zest, and congratulations once more on reaching the semi-final. KT Rolster have their second player in the semi-finals, and those semi-finals are coming right up after the break. Don't go far.